The night Atletico mocked the wrong man and paid the price. The night pride was punished. They mocked him. They laughed, whistled, and jeered as he walked into the Wanda Metropolitano. The chants echoed through Madrid. "You're finished, Cristiano." For 90 minutes, they believed it. But football has a way of remembering disrespect, and one man, Cristiano Ronaldo, never forgets. A week later in Turin, the laughter stopped. By the time the scoreboard read Juventus 3, Atletico Madrid 0, the world knew what it had just witnessed. Not a comeback, but a reckoning. This is the story of how mocking the wrong man cost Atletico everything. The first battle. The first leg of the 2019 Champions League round of 16 felt like a nightmare for Juventus.
Sull'esterno, la mette giù bene Leonardo, Spinazzola, va sul fondo.
Atletico Madrid, masters of defensive cruelty, played with fire and fury. In front of their home fans, they smothered Juventus' rhythm, shut down every passing lane, and made Cristiano look isolated. By the 78th minute, Atletico's plan struck gold, or rather, grit. 2 scrappy goals from Jimenez and Godin sealed a 2-0 win. Simeone turned to the crowd and celebrated with that infamous gesture. Defiant, raw, unapologetic. He later called it a symbol of courage, but for Ronaldo, it was a symbol of disrespect. As he left the pitch, he looked into the cameras and said just 5 words, "I've got 5 Champions Leagues." It wasn't arrogance, it was a promise. The calm before the storm in Turin, the build-up to the second leg felt like destiny waiting to erupt. Atletico fans were already booking hotels for the quarterfinals. Simeone's men arrived with swagger. Compact, organized, and convinced they'd already buried Juventus. But inside the Juventus dressing room, a different energy simmered. Ronaldo was quiet, focused, calculating. He had done this before, against Wolfsburg, against Bayern, against Atletico themselves. His teammates later said he spoke only once before kickoff. "Give me the ball, and believe." Luis Enrique once said that great players don't play matches, they play moments. And on that night, Ronaldo owned every moment. The first strike 12 minutes in. Bernardeschi breaks down the left, whips in a cross. Ronaldo rises, higher than anyone, and buries it into the net. 1-0. The stadium explodes. But the celebration wasn't wild. It was fierce, controlled. A glance toward the stands, and a whisper to the world, "It begins now." Atletico barely had time to breathe. Juventus pressed with relentless energy. Every duel, every tackle, every loose ball was theirs. Atletico, known for chaos control, suddenly looked nervous. Their passes turned heavy, their tough. Simeone shouted from the sideline, gesturing for calm, but calm was gone. Ronaldo had changed the temperature of the game. The second blow, second half. Juventus came out like a storm. Sandro, Spinazzola, and Bernardeschi overloaded the flanks, forcing Atletico's narrow defense to stretch. In the 49th minute, a looping cross from Cancelo. Ronaldo again. Another header, this one clawed by Oblak, but technology confirmed it had crossed the line. 2-0, tie level on aggregate. The stadium roared like thunder. Atletico's faces turned pale. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to them, and yet, everyone watching could feel it. This night belonged to Cristiano. Even Simeone stood motionless, realizing what he was witnessing. History repeating itself, but this time against him. The turning point at 2-0, Atletico were collapsing under their own fear. They tried to hold possession, to slow the tempo, but Juventus pressed like a swarm. Chiellini barked orders, Pjanic dictated rhythm, and Bernardeschi, playing the game of his life, carved open spaces between the lines. Then, the moment. The 84th minute, Bernardeschi dribbled into the box, sidestepped Correa, and was shoved down. Penalty. The stadium froze. There was only one man for it. Cristiano stepped up, eyes locked, breathing steady. Oblak guessed right, but Ronaldo's strike was perfect. Top corner. Hat trick. 3-0. Turin exploded. Fans screamed, cried, fell to their knees. And Cristiano? He mimicked Simeone's celebration, arms wide, defiant, roaring to the stands. Payback. Delivered. The man they shouldn't have mocked for Atletico. It was humiliation. For Ronaldo, it was justice. They mocked him when he was down. He answered with 3 goals. 3 daggers. At full time, he didn't boast. He didn't gloat. He just smiled. The smile of a man who had heard every insult and turned it into fuel.
Bene per Spinazzola. Sterza su se stesso Leonardo, va al cross, rovescia!
In the dressing room, teammates said he spoke softly. "That's why they brought me here." He wasn't wrong. Juventus signed him for nights exactly like this, when belief runs dry and only legends remain. The anatomy of revenge. Ronaldo's performance that night wasn't just athletic, it was psychological warfare. He attacked Atletico's confidence, not just their defense. He positioned himself perfectly between their center backs. isolating Godin, dragging Gimen out of position, and forcing them into mistakes. Every header was timed, every run choreographed. But more than tactics, it was emotion. This was personal. Atletico Madrid had become a recurring chapter in Ronaldo's story, the rival he loved tormenting. And each time they thought the story was over, he wrote another page. Simeone's silence. When the final whistle blew, Simeone didn't shout, didn't complain, didn't even look up. He walked off quietly, perhaps realizing that his gesture from the first leg had returned to haunt him. In the press conference, he admitted it with grace. Ronaldo is the best in the world. He can do this to anyone. Atletico's players looked broken. The confidence that carried them through Madrid had turned into disbelief. The unshakable fortress of discipline had been reduced to rubble by one man's will. Juventus reborn. For Juventus, that night felt like rebirth. For years, they had been the nearly men, always close, never champions. But on March 12, 2019, they believed again. Ronaldo had reignited something dormant. The idea that impossible comebacks weren't reserved for others. Fans poured into Turin streets. Children wore Ronaldo's number 7 and shouted his name until dawn. The players called him Il Fenomeno. And the media? They called it the miracle of Turin. But for Ronaldo, it wasn't a miracle. It was inevitability. The legacy of the night. That night wasn't about statistics or records, though he broke plenty.
Bernardeschi vuole andare via veloce, Bernardeschi con il fisico, Bernardeschi più veloce di Correa.
It was about statement, about revenge served with precision and poise. In one game, he turned Atletico's arrogance into a cautionary tale. He showed that football's cruelest rule still stands: never provoke greatness. When Simeone celebrated in Madrid, he celebrated too early. When Atletico mocked him, they mocked destiny. Because some players don't lose, they reload. And when Cristiano Ronaldo reloads, there's no defense in the world that can survive. What it meant for football. The 3-0 comeback wasn't just a Juventus victory. It was a reminder of why football is a storyteller's dream. In 180 minutes, we saw pride, pain, revenge, and redemption, all written by one man's willpower. Critics had said Ronaldo was fading, that his best years were behind him. But that night, under the lights of Turin, he reminded the world, legends don't fade. They evolve. Every header, every sprint, every roar was a message to those who doubted. I am still here. The aftermath. Atletico never fully recovered from that night. Their aura of invincibility cracked. The same system that had built them now felt brittle, predictable. And for Simeone, the memory of that defeat lingered like a scar. Juventus, too, carried that energy. A belief that as long as Ronaldo was on the pitch, nothing was impossible. It wasn't just about football anymore. It was about faith. Faith in a player who turned insults into inspiration. The price of mocking greatness. In the end, this wasn't just a football match. It was a parable about pride, persistence, and power. Atletico Madrid mocked the wrong man and paid the ultimate price. Cristiano Ronaldo reminded the world that the greatest revenge isn't shouting louder. It's scoring 3 times and walking away in silence. That night in Turin wasn't just a win, it was a warning. Never write off a man who's built his career on proving people wrong. Because when greatness feels disrespected, it doesn't get angry. It gets even. And if you enjoyed this cinematic breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful football documentaries. Because football isn't just a game, it's where legends write their revenge.